Welcome to Whiskey's Attorney. My name is Peter Fasciano, and today is a Monday. I've got a double bourbon review coming at you, but before I get into this, I've got to do some, I don't even know if this is called house cleaning or not, but channel updates. December is going to be a very interesting month for me, so if you can allow me a few minutes to explain what's going on. So, in December, at the time that this is airing, I still have a bunch of 2024 whiskeys to review. Here's my schedule. Today, at the time this is airing, December 2nd, I've got the double Remus reviews. The following Monday, I have the 2024 release of the Knob Creek 18. The 16th, I have the Sagamore 9-year. And then on the 23rd, I have the Sneakerhead 2XO. My final video in December 30th, is going to be a review, another double review of Baker's 13 and Baker's 7. I have all of my Sip It or Skip It's coming through the month of December. I've got 4 of them on the way. And then Fridays are going to be a little bit interesting. My first Friday of December is going to be my Spot Whiskey First Friday Flight Fight. And then I have bottle battles on the 13th and the 27th. Sorry, I have one bottle battle on the 13th. The 20th is kind of a special day. I'm retiring after 29 years of education. So I'm going to have a special flight on the 20th to celebrate my retirement anniversary or my retirement date. And then I have my Whiskeys of the Year video coming out on Friday, the 27th. So I have a ton of stuff happening. I do have a November giveaway that I will be spinning the wheel on the first Friday Flight Fight, so stay tuned for that. And then in the month of December, everything that I have or will be reviewing in the month of December will go into my December giveaway. The rules to that giveaway are in the description below. If you are interested in supporting the channel, every increment of $5 will get you one entry into the giveaway. Sometime in January, probably the first or second week in January, I will spin the wheel for my December winner. If you are selected, you get to choose 6 2-ounce samples of anything that I reviewed in the month of December. And then free included into that giveaway will be the first Friday Flight Fight. So with that, if you are interested in supporting the channel, again, the rules are in the description below. If you like this information and you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Just go ahead and click on that button right there. Turn that bell notification on because I produce videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. All right, let's go ahead and get this review going. Like always, I'm going to pour them, nose them, taste them, talk about them a little bit. I'm not going to get into the history of Ross and Squibb or MGP, but I am going to talk a little bit about the Remus, I guess the Remus line, whether it be the Remus Repeal or the Gatsby. The Gatsby is in this box, and every year that this has come out, it has come in a different box, each one a little bit different than the other, as I'm struggling with this. So I am going to look at the Remus Repeal VIII first, because I'm going to let the Gatsby Reserve air out a little bit, give it a little bit of time in the glass before I do the review. So let's go ahead and set that one off to the side and get rid of this box and start with the Remus Repeal Reserve VIII. There is a mix of 17-year-old and 10-year-old different levels of rye bourbon or high rye bourbons. It looks like we've got 17-year-old 9%, 17-year-old 21% rye, and then the other two make up 24%, 21% rye, and then a 67% 2014 bourbon that is 36% rye. And when I'm saying 36% and 21%, that's just the Ross and Squibb high rye mash bill. If I am mistaken, let me know in the comments down below. Something that's a little bit new to this one as well, it is non-chill filtered, and it's coming in at 101 proof. The other versions, I believe, were all 100, with the exception of the very first release, and I think that one was, I think, 90 something. Not exactly sure. I jumped into this whole Remus Repeal Reserve on batch 5. So I'm not really going to compare this to batch 5, but I will be comparing it somewhat to the 2024 Remus Gatsby Reserve. So let's go ahead and get this thing on the nose. Oh, sorry. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. If you don't know, I paid $109.99 for this one. And I think that's all of the information for this. So let's go ahead and get this thing on the nose. Up front, oak and cherry. A little bit of spice, cinnamon. And then there's also that backbone of your typical bourbons, vanilla, brown sugar, and I love honey. And I know bourbons do have honey notes, and I find it very difficult to find honey notes in a bourbon unless they are really honey forward. And there is a little bit of honey coming out of this. So as I'm nosing it, I would say it's cherry, it's oak, it's got that vanilla and spice. That vanilla and spice are pretty close together, followed by a slight amount of honey. Tell you what, it smells really good. My mouth is already watering in anticipation for this. So let's go ahead and get it on the palate, give you my first impression. Yeah, everything that is on the nose is definitely coming through on the palate. I get a good amount of cherry, and it's not a medicinal cherry, followed by those oak tannins that settle into the side of the tongue. It sinks in, you get a little barrel char. The sweet and spice notes with the vanilla and cinnamon are definitely well balanced. And then as it's going back to the back of the palate, you end up getting a little bit of ABV. The sweetness elevates a little bit more, and you're left with a very nice cherry oak finish. I like this quite a bit. Before I get that second sip in, let me know what your area is, like where is your market? Are you seeing these on the shelves? And if so, how much are they going for? I'm always curious on where people are watching and what they're paying for. I know every market is completely different, and I don't know if Phoenix, Arizona is on the higher end of prices or if we are lower than other places. All right, now that my first sip has had a little bit of time to settle in, that finish I would say is medium long, probably closer to the medium. So that sweetness is lingering around. That oak note and cherry note has faded away, and what I'm left with is a pretty good vanilla caramel note. So let's go ahead and get that second sip in, see if anything changes, and then get a rinse of water and move on to the Remus Repeal Reserve. All right, cheers everybody. Lots of oak, lots of cherry on that nosing. Yeah, second sip, more of the same. Get a little bit more of a, I want to say chocolate, but a vanilla cream soda note is coming through. It has pretty good depth. The saturation of flavors that are coming through and the viscosity, I think, are good. Being non-chill filtered, I thought maybe it would stick around a little bit more. That finish is the exact same. On the arrival, it's sweet. We get the oak tannins and the barrel char on the side, glides to the back. That vanilla, cherry, and oak kind of linger around a little bit. Saturation of flavors are good. I would not say that this is developing into anything other than those original first two sips, but it's enjoyable. I like this. $109 worth. I don't really know quite this point. So let that sit for a little bit. Let's move on to the Remus Gatsby Reserve, 15-year-old straight bourbon whiskey, cask strength. This is coming in a little bit higher than the other first two versions. This is 104.9 proof, and it's comprised of two different mash bills. I got it written down. It is a mash bill of 75% corn, 21% rye, 4% barley. The second mash bill is 60% corn, 36% rye, and 4% barley. I ended up paying $259.99. These are both 750 milliliter bottles. All right, let's go ahead and get this one on the nose. Let you know what I think. 15 years of age. Well, there is that same oak cherry note that was in this, but I would flip-flop the oak with the cherry. There's barrel char, oak, and then cherry. The cherry's coming across as a little medicinal, and this is coming across as a little bit more of a natural cherry. Spice notes are a little bit more elevated in this as well. They do smell similar, but this has more of an oak presence. All right, let's go ahead and get it on the palate. Less viscosity, more oak, more spice, a little bit more barrel tannin and bitterness on the side of the tongue. The cherry note is there, but it is not really as dominant. There is still that backbone of typical bourbon notes with the vanilla, brown sugar, and caramel. Same length to the finish, medium to long. Elevated ABV is there, which is kind of coming across to me right now with that first sip, even though I had 2 sips of this. It has a little bit of a acetone or astringency to it. I'm guessing that note will probably go away after it sits in the glass for a little bit longer. I didn't rinse my palate, so let me go ahead and get a rinse of water and then go in for a second sip. All right, second sip. Again, cheers everybody. Oh man, tons and tons of oak. If you like oak spice, oak sweetness, you're gonna like this. If you've been here for a while, you know that I do like a good balance of sweet and spice. I think this is a little bit too over oaked and a little bit spicier than I would like. My initial impression right now is I would gravitate towards this, especially with this creeping close to $250, or actually more than $250. I think the value on this bottle is better based on my flavor profile over this one. It's still good, but $250. I don't know if anything is really worth that. I don't actually know if this is worth $109. Let me know in the comments down below, where's your cutoff? Are you a person that looks for value under $30? Or are you looking for something that provides a good punch for 50 and above, maybe 50 to 80? Or are you willing to go above and beyond that and actually dive into the $100 plus bottles? I know everybody's budget is completely different than everyone else's out there. So if you feel like sharing, let me know in the comments down below. All right, a little bit of information. I'm gonna add a couple of drops of water to each of these. All right, a couple of drops of water in each of these. The Remus Gatsby Reserve is paying homage to the novel or the era of the Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald. If you haven't read that, I would highly suggest reading it because it's a smaller book. It's a entertaining read, probably taking maybe a day or two depending upon how fast you read. So this is now the third release of the Gatsby Reserve. First release in 2022, it came in at 97.8 proof. The 2023 release was 98.1 proof, and then this one 104.9 proof. And then prior to 2022, this shape bottle, Ross and Squibb released in 2019, the Remus Volstead, and this was a 14-year-old blend, I think, of MGP or Ross and Squibb. That was before I even began my whiskey journey. So if you've had the Volstead Act, let me know. And if you've continued to buy the bottles, let me know how it compares. As far as the Remus Repeal Reserve goes, obviously it was the Repeal Act. Like I mentioned, I did not get into this whole lineup until the fifth release, the Remus V, and that ended up being a lot of people's favorites. I did a couple of blinds, and I ended up liking or preferring the sixth over the five. When I first had the five, I thought it was one of the better bourbons that I've ever had in my life, but it has since fallen off of my list. And to be quite honest, based on my memory, I think the 8 for me is better than the 5. As soon as I ended up getting this bottle, I immediately threw the 5 and the 8 into my blind sample. So eventually that sample will show up. So it's going to test my palate to see what I think, if my memory is actually serving me correctly. All right, pretty much that's all I have for this. I'll save the information to a later date when I review a different Ross and Squibb to get you some information about the history of MGP, and I believe it was Seagram's before MGP, and then how it eventually changed over to Ross and Squibb. All right, let's go ahead and get the Remus, I always get it, the Remus Gatsby Reserve back on the nose and the palate, and then give these things a score. All right, the oak is now extremely elevated with the water. There's much more spice coming through. pepper, ginger, cinnamon. The cherry note is almost non-existent. There's still that backbone of bourbon notes, caramel, brown sugar, vanilla. All right, let's see what the water has done to it. Whoa, immediately, a bunch of spice, a bunch of oak, a little bit bitter and tannin on the side. Oh, there is that cherry note. The cherry note is now on the very back end of the palate, followed by a lot more spice, a little bit more oak. Comes across as too sharp for my taste with the water. All right, let me get that out of my mouth with a little rinse of water and then move on. Boy, it is really tannin. Not a fan of that one at all with the water. Let's see what the Remus Reserve Repeal, the Remus Repeal Reserve VIII is like with the water. More subdued, less oak, less spice, and now obviously I'm coming off of that one. The cherry note has disappeared. It's not as oak forward, but there is spice there. All right, let's get it on the palate. Little spice forward, subdued the oak, no sweetness or cherry to even mention. I think both of these do better without water. Obviously, it's your whiskey. If you have these, drink them any way that you want. I'm just kind of looking at based on my preferences, and my preferences lie without water. All right, as far as a score goes, I'm going to go ahead and dump these both together. Give it time to blend a little bit and then let you know what I think of these in general. I think I like this one more than this one. Factoring in price, I think you have a little bit more of a value in this one. The nose and palate is leaning to the 8 as well. If you like cherry and oak forward whiskeys, I think you would definitely gravitate towards this one. But as I'm sitting here going back and forth between which one I like the most, it's pretty much a dead heat. But then if I factor in price, I'm going to go with the Remus Repeal Reserve VIII as far as my choice as a head-to-head. I like the price better. I think the viscosity and the richness of flavors minus the oak is better in this one. I like the balance of sweet and spice. So if you're new here, I rate everything out of 5 stars. I'm going to rate this one separate from this one. Based on everything that I have had so far with this, I've had a couple of pours from it. I like it. I'm going to also factor in value. If I were to give this a score out of 5, this one's going to land pretty much close to 3.8, 3.85. Now, if I don't factor in price, I think this would probably be somewhere around 3.9. I like it quite a bit. But since it's the entire experience with the price, let's just go 3.8. That's what I'm going to give the Remus Repeal Reserve VIII. Moving on to the Gatsby. So the Remus Gatsby Reserve, limited release 2024. Just the way that my mind is working and thinking of the other 2 releases, I'm putting this one above the other 2. Now that I'm thinking of it, I'm also going to throw this into my sample pool with the 2022 and the 2023 release. I think this benefits with the higher proof. That cherry and oak note, I think, play really well together, but it just can't get that price of $259.99 out of my head. I'm still willing to pay that for each one of these releases because I still really do like the flavor profile that comes through. But as far as value goes, I think the value on this bottle is pretty low. So based on that, I would put this at a 3.5 as far as total experience goes. But because of the price, I would probably end up dropping it from a 3.5 to around a 3.4. I'd be curious to hear from you. Again, let me know in the comments down below where you're at. Are you seeing these and what you're paying for them? And actually, are you paying for them or are you leaving them on the shelf? So now that this blend has had time to meld a little bit, let's get it on the nose, get it on the palate, and call this video good. Tremendous amount of cherry is radiating out of this now. Good vanilla, good caramel. That oak note is not as dominant that I was getting in the Remus Repeal. Sorry, the Remus Gatsby. The spice level is there, but it's not over the top. Now, I do understand that this is a blend with the water, so I think that's probably going to have an influence with the final product rather than just blending these by themselves. I don't think I would blend these by themselves just because of the price point, but because it's a review and this is already watered down, let's give it a taste. Tastes like wet oak. Yeah, just water saturated into wood. If you were going to chew on a popsicle stick that was saturated with water, it's not a bad flavor, but it's not the best. I think all of those, all of the backbone notes of a typical whiskey are hidden. The cherry note that I was getting on the nose is definitely not there on the palate. Tony, if you were into that kind of thing and you do want to try this blend, I would suggest don't. I don't think it's going to be worth it. Anyone else out there, obviously you can try the blend if you have these two. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below of either one of these bottles. That's where I'm going to leave it. So wherever you are at in your journey, I hope you are enjoying it. December is going to be a very transformative month for me. I hope you guys are sticking around. I hope you support the channel. And until the next time, cheers, everybody. Oh man, I just got a huge anise note from that one. That was very strange. All right, see everybody later.